A very good morning to all our guests on the call this morning. An extended good morning to um, all of you that are joining us from our various social media platforms, and a special thank you and welcome to our speakers, our subject matter experts who've made the time this morning to join us on this call and take you through, the local food system for economic resilience. I think it's very important before I get into Proudly South African membership and our mandate, to give a little background into why we are looking at local food systems. I think, it is so important for every individual to consider the many steps between the food you buy at the shops and the farmers who produce it. The food system plays an essential role in food safety and equally in local, fresh, healthy goods for consumption. How often have we seen when we go into a local supermarket and we see chicken from Brazil or chicken from USA or certain products that are supposed to be either ripe and ready or even value added products from another country, and we have a big hoo-ha about it, and we're like, no, that's not right. We do not want chicken from Brazil. We want chicken from South Africa. We want ripe and ready fruits from South Africa. And I think this is so important for localization, because what it means is that the farm to table concept is becoming more popular because consumers associate regional, local, manufactured goods to be of the best quality, because they understand it has not taken miles and miles and many ships later to get to us. So I think the popularization of local food manufactured products, farm to table products, and products that are locally manufactured in order to keep farmers in business has become quite a buzzword recently. And it is for this reason that we aptly title our webinar Local Food Systems for Economic Resilience, because the agricultural sector, food products, is something that we want to make sure is localized to a point whereby, even with the many legislative laws that are changing, with whatever is happening between us and the USA, it's become even more apparent that we as South Africans have the best fruit, the best vegetables, the best produce here locally. Hence why so many companies are taking A-grade products and exporting it to other countries. But needless to say, we have the best produce in South Africa. And so to localize our supply chain has never been more urgent than right now. As I said, especially with the legislative laws and the excise taxes and the issues with other countries, it's time to look locally. It's time to look at South Africa, appreciate that we have what we have, and know that other countries actually look to us in South Africa to produce some of the best ripe and ready products. Many years ago, I used to work for a company called Westphalia, and I remember that they, packed their ripe and ready avocados, and it was a vertical integrative system whereby when Spain was out of season for avocados, we would send avos to them. And I remember once being abroad, and people in terms of the menu, justifying the price because they are so proud to say these avos are from South Africa. So if we can take the same pride in our products as other countries do for our products, that would be absolutely amazing. So before I get into our speakers for today, I thought it would be quite nice for me just to give you a short overview of Proudly South African, in terms of localization and why we feel it would be absolutely necessary to localize, all sectors, but most importantly, the food sector. Okay. Okay, so Proudly South African is the country's national buy local advocacy campaign. By this, I mean that we are mandated as a campaign to advocate for the public sector, the private sector, and the general consumer to make a local purchasing decision. Now, buy local campaigns is not just based in South Africa. If you've noticed throughout the world, they do have USA has a buy local campaign. European countries have a buy local campaign. Australia. So countries around the world understand the importance of economic reliance, of relying on one's self for sustainability. We understand during COVID, we were so afraid that because of the import export coming to an halt, we were scared that clothing wouldn't reach South Africa, certain food products wouldn't reach South Africa, certain OEM equipment for cars wouldn't reach South Africa, steel, aluminium. This is very scary because for a country as rich in resources and natural resources as ourselves, where we are able to sustain ourselves from an agriculture perspective, from a manufacturing perspective, from a raw materials perspective, it's very odd that a country like us will be so scared when exports cease to enter South Africa. So self-reliance is really an important aspect that, as a campaign, we are actively advocating for. In terms of the Buy Local campaign, we have four categories that we focus on. So we are urging the public sector, that is government, to procure local, to buy from local manufacturers or service providers in terms of all of their RFQs, or as much as they can. For the private sector, that is your procurement officials, to also look at procuring locally. So, the beverage sector that does this quite well, whereby they procure from local farmers, they procure from local branding companies, they procure from local, stickers or packaging companies. So we advocating for procurement officials in the private sector to procure local. We are urging consumers to understand localization, to make a local purchasing decision, and to read labels. Hence, we allow our member companies to use the logo on all of their products. And then we are creating a database of products whereby consumers can look onto our map, that is our market access platform, whereby you will be able to, as a buyer, meet suppliers and procure local. Um, in terms of localization, really very quickly, the aim of localization is to retain and create jobs in South Africa. Our tagline as a campaign is buy local to create jobs. So really, above everything else, the aim is to create jobs, and where jobs have already been created, to sustain those jobs. We want to obviously develop skills and have a healthy skills marketplace whereby we can rely on South Africans to do the jobs, required by South African companies. Economic development, as you rely on yourself as a country and as you develop the skills and you create jobs, you develop the economy. and of course empowerment and improved living standards. We do come from quite a negative socio-political background, so we need to right the wrongs. So we need to empower certain individuals or certain race groups, certain genders, and it is important to empower these individuals in order to create an inclusive economy. And of course, the more you rely on yourself as a country and you export more than you import, you increase the GDP and you balance off the trade, which is a very healthy situation to be in, which most often we are not in that balance of trade or increase and not in that the deficit that we require. So in terms of Proudly South African, we are a membership-based campaign, meaning that we have a logo. So the Proudly South African logo, as you can see on the screen, is a registered trademark, and this registered trademark denotes local content and quality. So as a campaign, we need to allow this logo to be used on, companies' products, services, collateral, you name it. But in order for us to use a registered trademark or to impart it to companies, we need to make sure that you are really a local manufacturer. So we do, we are a membership-based campaign, and we vet you by 4 key criteria. So if you were to become a member company, we would ask you to provide us with documentation that will confirm local content, quality, fair labor practices, and environmental standards. So local content is basically, we are a buy local campaign. So it is so important for us to advocate for companies that are manufacturing locally or providing a local service. So local content is very important. We are cognizant of the fact that not all of the products can be locally manufactured because of raw material. So in this case, we allow for 50% or more of the product to be manufactured here in South Africa. So I want to make note of something, and it's something that a lot of companies that apply for membership get declined for. Bringing a product from China and then repackaging it in South Africa is not local content. That is literally you repackaging so that it can be brand friendly in your country or aligned to your company. Local content is where the final cost of production of that product is done here in South Africa. So local content, either 100% must be local, or where in cases you cannot get raw material, then 50% or more of that product must be locally produced. Quality, as I've confirmed, the Proudly South African logo is a registered trademark. And in order for us to impart this logo to your product, we need to make sure that your product has gone through the relevant testing process or is ISO certified. Fair labor practices. Our tagline is buy local to create jobs. So wherever we create jobs, whether directly or indirectly, we need to make sure that it is done abiding by the fair labor practices of South Africa. And of course, environmental practices, especially in the agricultural sector, the furniture manufacturing sector. We want to know that we're keeping a circular economy whereby whatever we take from the earth, we're putting back. So that is the vetting process of how one can become a member to the campaign. And as with any membership-based campaign, there are associated benefits. So the associated benefits of membership is the use of the Proudly South African logo on your product. You can see on the screen, Darling Sweets, one of our member companies, uses the Proudly South African logo on all of their products. We also have public sector first-hand access to tender opportunities designated for local content by the DTIC. So if you are registered on the National Treasury's Central Supplier Database and you're a member company, you will be flagged as a locally manufactured company or local service provider, and that offers you additional benefits for tenders that you apply for within your designated sector or category. We have launched our e-commerce site. So we urge our member companies to list on our e-commerce site and sell on our e-commerce site as an additional access to market opportunity for you. We also have partnered with companies like Zulzi, Macro Marketplace, Made by Artisans, and BizMed, just to name a few. And we urge also our member companies to list on these e-commerce sites so that you can grow your business. I mean, Macro Marketplace, Take a Lot, have millions and millions of transactions going through them every single month. So, it is such great exposure for our member companies and also great opportunities for you to sell product. We have a robust marketing department made up of brand, event, and PR. And our marketing department offers our member companies various opportunities to expose your brand, from the Buy Local Summit and Expo to the Wine Expo to the Fashion Police to DSTV Delicious, Decorex, Manufacturing Indaba, some of the largest expos that occurs in the country is expos that we go to, and we take our member companies, suitable sectors obviously, to these events and positively expose you at these expos. And of course, as I said, we have MAP, that is Market Access Platform. And this Market Access Platform is where buyers will meet our members who are suppliers. And I think this has just launched, but I think it will take time to really pick up. But once it's where it needs to be, I think this will be one of the largest procurement, sites whereby buyers will literally come in and meet our member companies who will serve as suppliers to various different sectors. And of course, we have national and international trade shows, and we have business and sector-specific forums whereby our member companies can network, share information, and grow their business. So this, in a nutshell, is what Proudly South African does. And when we look at the food sector, the agriculture sector, we do so much in terms of DSTV Delicious for our food, food service or food product members. We do the wine show in July, which has been running for over 3 years now. And we do so many events that expose our member companies from a food product, food service manufacturer. And I think that it is important for our member companies to then get involved and other companies in these sectors to become members so that we can work together to help you grow your business, not just in terms of marketing, but in terms of access to market as well. So that in a nutshell is where we are from a membership perspective, and basically what Proudly South African is doing for all our members, not just specifically in the food sector. And with that said, I would like to call in our first speaker, who is Tulani Mlabo from Local to Global Foods. Tulani will talk to us about the economic impact of local food systems. Tulani, the floor is yours.
Give me a sec. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we are able to. Thank you.
All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity, to the Proudly SA team, for inviting me to share our journey. My name is Tulani Mlambo. I'm actually the founder of Local to Global Foods, and today I'll be sharing a grounded perspective on how local food systems are transforming what we eat and but reshaping our economy for a grounded up. All right, our opening statement. We are reimagining traditional foods and products that are very dear and nostalgic to us. And but it's not only that, but they're economically powerful. And we as local to global foods, we see food systems as economic engines. They create jobs, they inspire innovation, and get to celebrate through the food that we share and how we unlock long-term economic transformation by investing in homegrown ingredients and local talent through the flavors that we actually provide or get from our nation. Who we are, we're local to global foods, as I had initially stated. We're a proudly South African gourmet food company. We actually, part of our first product that we launched, we reimagined acha for a modern palate. Our flagship, as you can actually see here on the screen, comes in seven different flavors. Oh, sorry, comes in seven different flavors. It's called the Nile Acha Pate. It's the first of its kind. It's a versatile spread that honors our tradition while being ready for global shelves, and accommodating a global palate, so to speak. We've won and showcased internationally. We did the Summer Fancy Food Show with our product, and we got also won a double gold international award for our jalapeno flavor, which was well received as well. So in essence, with every jar that we actually produce, we get to celebrate the taste of South African excellence from our ingredients and how we actually source them. Uh, sorry. Yes. All right. Um, yes, sorry about that. So why, um, oh, what are local food systems? What people would generally ask. So in essence, local food systems are more than just farms and markets. They are networks of growers, processors, retailers, and eaters working within a region to build a food security, resilience, and local wealth. And to also try and shorten the supply of food chains, reduce dependency on imports, and support sustainable practices and keep value chain within our borders. And I think that goes back to reinforce what Alicia was presenting earlier, that these are the key things that are very key that we need to make sure that we keep these type of systems sustainable. We grow our local markets. And the value chain keeps on circulating within our South African borders, and there's no reliance on us bringing external products and repackaging them as if they are locally produced. So why economic resilience matters? Local food systems matter because they're inclusive by design. They create opportunities from the soil to the shelf for women, for youth, for rural entrepreneurs, and to just also reinforce what Delisha was saying, that that from farm to the table is a new trend that's that really are people are looking for the type of products that they actually. So those are the key things that these type of local food systems create, and why they really do matter. They're the cushion for communities from global shocks and allow every rand to circulate multiple times, multiplying its impact and the real economic economic resilience is actually when it actually starts materializing, which is very key for us to have or think of it in that aspect because that's how we are going to grow our industries, grow our sectors, and making sure that whatever that we are producing, there's that local reinvestment that gets regenerated over and over again. Um, so in terms of our local to global foods, our impact model, so it starts with ethical sourcing from small scale farmers and processors. So some of our ingredients, they come from all the way from Limpopo. And it's beautiful that, our jalapeno, our picante, and the mango that we actually use during harvest time, our supplier, they bring in communities to actually women and the youth to come and work on the fields and to almost harvest all the produce that we end up utilizing in our products for throughout the year. So and that's the kind of practice that's also lies very dear to us and why that's the type of model that we also want to make sure that you know we stick to it and we do also look at those kind of um projects that have that kind of impact from based on the suppliers that we actually have. Um, and then we produce locally in Johannesburg using low waste methods. We have a footprint that spans over 15 retail outlets and delis. So that it's not just about scale, but it's also about the people. We train and employ and uplift the youth. We've actually started taking through initiatives through Food BevCita, through City of Johannesburg, where we bring in the youth with matric certifications, but don't never necessarily had the opportunity to first pursue their studies further. We bring them in to do skills transfer in uh, uh, food safety and in terms of them understanding in terms of what it actually entails to having a production cycle. Um, you know, and in essence, just to uplift the youth and previously unemployed, and building skills that we can look back and be proud of the impact and the give back that we've actually given, so that even for them, they can also look towards creating other products that they can also include in the ecosystem. Um, our impact in numbers and matrix that that matter and how we actually measure them. So we've developed over 13 gourmet flavors. Um, the seven of them is actually the pate, acha, and the traditional range. That's where it actually spans across. Um, and each product is culinary versatility and appealing to a variety of tastes and uses. That's why we actually created that it becomes, as a dip, as a marinade, um, and you can cook with it. Um, you can spread it on a sandwich, you know. So allowing, excuse me, the product to be experienced differently and making sure that because of the range as it allows us also to create um, more jobs. Like right now, we do have, depending on our peaks, that we have permanent staff and part-time jobs that we've actually created of people that come in, uh, assist us with the production and delivery of our product, doing promotions, and we're hoping now to keep that momentum and grow nationally and keep on expanding so that you know our growth and our revenue is not just only just focused on us moving numbers, but also having a direct impact in our local spend and having an impact in people and lives that we actually interface with. Food hubs and regional networks. So our impact goes beyond food. We are 100% Black owned, and I could say township rooted because we did look at, or part of our model is actually to elevate township foods that were never packaged traditional local foods, township foods, but never really packaged for a global audience. And that's actually how we actually apply our business model. A clean label, no waste production, trying to elevate the South African flavors, um, and our culture and our heritage so that, we create an essence of people where they're proud to collaborate with us and helping other people grow part of our ecosystem and and sharing our knowledge in terms of what we've actually learned through our product development. Enablers of local food systems. Growth is amplified and when local policies and programs actively create markets for us and others in the sector from public procurement. This would actually anchor opportunities for local producers like us to be able to grow. There's more spend where our products can be uh, um, exposed, elevated, and shared, with massive. Just a classical example, when we did the Food Bev Cita Food Fancy Show in New York, when we came back, part of the end of year end for the reporting year end, they selected our products and all the people that actually came to the briefing, they actually got to share our products, and we managed to get further orders post the show. So that kind of approach is what, when that kind of the big public institutions actually do those kind of supports, it does actually help us. We can also look at land access and infrastructure support, enabling expansion of regional food manufacturing. And that's even a space that we hope to actually expand to. That is not just only about just creating a product, but you actually end up having a hand within the full value chain, um, right up from the farm to the manufacturing of product and having it on the shelves. The Proudly certification builds customer trust and opens institution root doors. And we also currently doing the commerce market. Um, you know, Part of on our display, we do showcase that we are proudly SA member. People are proud to actually know and that this is a product that comes from SA. We are proud of it, and they're proud to actually want to support it as well. And we're also looking at incentives for SMEs, where if they are structured in a very good way, they can give us tax reliefs and grants and fuel product innovation and the creation of jobs, which is very key of why these local food systems are very critical for food growth because as long as much as we put on the thinking cap of innovation and job creation, that would be that vehicle that will keep on going and change lives and how we actually are growing as an industry in South Africa. What would say then the way forward, to enable township food manufacturing through infrastructure and capital, which also just as an interesting um, opportunity that was also offered to me that because I've applied myself differently in terms of something that has existed for so long, I've actually gotten uh, an opportunity to judge a food show uh, where township food producers have to be innovative to create new products, and then I would actually be the judge of the show to actually say, have they applied the right mindset and techniques to take a known product that existed for a very long time and repackage it for a different audience or even scaling it, to give a different type of infrastructure and capital growth based on a product that has always existed. And we're also helping to expand public and private partnerships to strengthen local markets, which is very, very key with why these local food markets, because as long as they can actually, allow more people to be part of the ecosystem and create partnerships. I mean, I know I realize that there's been a part of our next guests that are coming, Loiso has partnered his olive oil with a salt producer, so expanding more of that ecosystem, and those partnerships which are very key. And we're also getting to build digital traceability platforms for small producers, which is a very key and very challenging part of it, which I think that's one thing I would hope that even part of the 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 Proudly SA team considers as a brand new initiative that they can introduce, because it's very key that as a producer you apply yourself in that mindset that one, as you produce and you're creating products that are consumed by people, you need to have a way to track back, from your from your ingredients that you receive from your suppliers right up to what actually goes into your product, and have that kind of traceability, because those are actually keys, things that will actually help you to grow your business and keep on fueling within the system as well. Invest in regenerative farming to secure long-term food sovereignty and celebrate food culture through innovation and locally inspired excellence, which is very, very dear to us, hence our company name Local to Global Foods, because that is the true essence of what we actually do and trying to do. Um, and thank you. And I'd like to say thank you for giving me an opportunity. And I'd like to hear if you have any questions.
Tulani, thank you so much for that. I don't see any questions for now in the chat box,
Okay.
but as we go along, if there's any questions, I'll direct it at you. I remember now how much we enjoyed your product at the Buy Local Summit and Expo. You have an amazing product.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for that presentation. And as I said, I'll direct any questions should they come through to the chat box. Thank you. Colleagues, our next speaker is Palesa Motong from Bread Africa. Palesa is going to take you through the role of local small-scale farmers and producers in South Africa. Palesa, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Alicia. Should I share my presentation from my side?
If you are able to, yes, that would be great.
Okay. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, it is visible. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Palesa. I am the founder of Bread, R&D, research and development company operating in the agri sector. I'm here to speak on behalf of Onewa Farms, a proudly South African farm that's operating out of the West Rand of Gauteng. So I'm going to speak a little bit about smallholder farming, the role of smallholder farming in South Africa, and tell you a little bit about Onewa farms and how they transitioned from being smallholder farmers into commercial farmers through the support of organizations like Proudly SA. So yeah, smallholder farmers in South Africa, where do we fit? So just some context about South Africa, and I mean, I'm sure if anyone in this audience knows how powerful South African agriculture is, how powerful South Africa is as an agricultural producer. So South Africa is the second largest citrus exporter in the world. Often I speak to people from around the world, from Netherlands, from Canada, and they'll say, oh, I saw an orange or some sort of citrus coming from South Africa, and it fills me with so much pride. South Africa is the 9th biggest wine producer in the world. It's the 15th largest producer of maize in the world. And the maize production is particularly important because we are able to supply maize to the SADC region in times of regional shortages, meaning that we can stabilize food security even within the continent. South Africa spends almost 7 billion per annum on agricultural investments across the continent, investing in agricultural production, in retail. Some of our biggest retailers, if you go to Mozambique, you find ShopRite there, you find Woolies there. If you go to any part of Africa, you are likely to find a South African company. So what does all of this mean to us, right? All these beautiful facts about South African agriculture. So agriculture, some stats say it employs 10% of the workforce, some say up to 19% of the workforce. It contributes 3% to GDP. The other day, I was looking at the ratio of contribution to GDP versus employment of key industries in South Africa. And the ratio for agriculture was about 6, comparing contribution to GDP and employment. And the next best industry was about 0.9. And, you know, obviously, if you think about or you read about economies, how when economies modernize, agriculture contributes less and less to GDP. While despite it contributing less, it is employing most South Africans. And most Africans in other parts of the continent, up to 60 or 80% of the people are employed in agriculture. So it just makes me love this sector so much. And then agriculture also has a cultural and spiritual connection. The speaker before spoke about his lovely products and how he was reinventing acha, a South African staple. In my recent travels to Kenya, I tasted a different version of acha as well. They call it achari, and it's almost like a dried fruit, but it's mango with a similar spice. So I'm saying this because food is culture, and food and the land have a spiritual connection for all people, and especially for us as Africans. So what does it mean to us? So I spoke about the lovely stuff, but as Alicia mentioned in the beginning, we do have a terrible history that continues to define modern agriculture in South Africa. So I'm going to give you some sobering facts about what it feels like to be a smallholder farmer in South Africa versus a commercial farmer. So just to begin with, we all know there's a skewed land and resource ownership. As proud South Africans, I'm sure we all watched the interesting visit that our president had when he visited President Donald Trump. And one of the big topics was land and race. So in South Africa, we have about different stats say 1 to 2 million smallholder farmers and about 300,000 commercial farmers. So I'd say that we have almost 10 times as much smallholder farmers than commercial farmers. But unfortunately, or apparently, the commercial farming units are producing more than 80% of the food we consume. And a big part of that is the low yield. There's a big yield gap between what smallholder farmers are producing and what commercial farmers are producing. And there's a myriad of reasons for that. But just for instance, you might find that a smallholder farmer is yielding about 2 to 5 tons of maize per hectare, where you find a big commercial farmer yielding almost 14 tons. And a big factor for that is water. So I read that I think 440 or 400 million cubic meters of water are assigned to agriculture in South Africa. And of that, smallholder farmers or black farmers only have access to 7.5% of that total. So another example of the disparity. Another shocking fact I read, and I've also experienced it myself operating in the agricultural sector. Access to credit, access to finance is a key enabler of agriculture. On average, commercial farmers are accessing 5 to 10 million rand worth of loans, overdrafts, just credit, with interest rates between 8 to 12%. Small-scale farmers are accessing 50 to 500,000, and their interest rates are as high as 18 to 25%. So double the interest rate. So in every aspect, there's a huge skewedness and unfairness in which small-scale farmers operate. So the big opportunity, because we're talking about the role of small-scale farmers, before I talk about the big opportunity, food secure but still hungry. So we all know that South Africa is food secure at a national level, but insecure at a household level. Many South African households are food insecure. A big portion of our children are nutritionally stunted. They don't have access to a nutritious bowl of food every day. And that's where the opportunity lies for small scale farmers. Number one, how do we bridge that household food insecurity gap? Number one, by improving yields among small scale farmers. And over and above improving those yields, we need to provide them with all the stuff I mentioned earlier: more water, better better financial terms, more land, redistributing land, and just generally more supports. And of course, I think technology could also play a critical role in that. So I would say the role of South African smallholder farmers is in bridging that gap so that we're not that country that's saying, oh, we're nationally food secure, but our people are still hungry. My background and my greatest interest, of course, my primary goal or job is to help farmers. But my primary tool that I use is looking at soil. So I have a master's in agricultural soil science, and my passion is soil health. And 60% of South African soils are said to be degraded. Depending on which farm you're looking at or what type of farmer you're looking at, the soil degradation looks different. Amongst commercial farming units, you might find that their soils have salinization, are salty because of irrigation water. You might find that the structure is destroyed because of tillage. Among small-scale farmers, they are suffering a lot from soil erosion, compaction, overgrazing. Both types of farmers, you might find that the nutrient depletion, farmers are excessively mining soils, not putting nutrients back, low soil organic matter. So this becomes a critical challenge amongst both small-scale and commercial farmers. Because over time, as you deplete your soil, you find yourself needing to use more and more inorganic synthetic fertilizers, which not only damage the soil and pollute subsurface water, they are also getting into our food and making our food less healthy, um, making our food have residues of chemicals. This is what I primarily do. I test soils for farmers and I help them plan the way forward on how to improve their soils so that they can get a better yield. Before I move to the next slide, I'd like to tell you about a project, and I'll move back to this. A project I am doing in Kenya. Because we say South Africa is an agricultural powerhouse, I've been consulting for a startup called Pro Local Edge. They're based in Kenya, and they provide they provide inputs to small-scale farmers on credit. This season, we financed 70 acres of production of maize. And the reason I'm helping them is that their yields are so low that their farmers are unable to pay them back. And before looking at their business model and how they can fix, I said, let's look at the soil, because their soils have something called striga, a weed that thrives in acidic, low fertility soils. And I had the opportunity of spending 3 weeks there in March, April, and I sampled 40 acres of land. And right now I'm creating fertilizer recommendations for their farms. And number one, the way I was received in rural Kenya as a South African was amazing. And not only was the reception amazing, showing that everyone in the continent is looking to South Africa as, you know, a big brother, a big sister, someone they look up to. I was also able to reach into my networks in South Africa, other soil scientists, young graduates that are graduates in environmental science, in soil science, and they were able to help me. I felt so proud when I was meeting, whether it be virtually or when I was there, when I was meeting the team in that startup, because so many South Africans were just showing up for free just to help. So yeah, I think we should be very proud as South Africans. We're a really great nation. So, yes, still talking about smallholder farmers. A big thing that's happening amongst all farmers, and affecting all farmers, but more so small scale farmers, is climate change. Climate change is basically unpredictable, erratic weather. And I spoke to Eric Mawani of Onewa Farms earlier, and in fact, just our general conversations of how do we build resilience on the farm so we can keep supplying the country. We speak a lot about going undercover. So that means erecting greenhouses or shade nets, which is all nice, until you find out that to erect a shade net on a hectare of land is about 300,000. Where is a smallholder going to get that money? Uh, Shade net, greenhouses, and then I think also access to knowledge. So, touching on climate change, but also touching on export markets and the requirements or the stringent requirements of export markets, and also the requirements of everyday people. Earlier, we spoke about how local consumers are looking to not only consume local food, which has traveled shorter spaces. They're also looking to consume more organic food, right? As consumers become more educated, they are becoming aware of the harm that modern intensive agriculture is doing, and they are also looking to consume organic food. So even local retailers are starting to be more strict in terms of how much chemical residues they can find on your food. So Eric and I will speak about what are alternative organic natural ways to manage pests and disease. Um, in general, as a soil scientist, the healthier your soil, the less work you need to do as a farmer to fight against pests and disease. The soil is your weapon. And if you treat it well, it'll fight back for you. Number two, there are natural, I'd say we can call it indigenous knowledge systems, but it's just knowledge that you learn over time if you are connected with your production and your soil. So there are natural predators for pests. I've seen very cute videos in China where it's a rice paddy and they send in 1,000 ducks, and all those ducks are waddling into the paddy and they're gonna eat all the pests. Other natural predators are ladybugs, um, and even other plants. A farmer recently showed me who is trialing industrial hemp. Aphids are a big pest in agriculture. And he showed me that blackjacks, I don't know if anyone remembers when you were small and you used to play outside and you'd be in the veld and you'd have all these blackjacks on you. That plant is actually attracts aphids. If you plant it as a companion plant next to your plant, it'll attract all those pests and keep them away from the plant that you are growing. So I think there's a big opportunity in that, in recording that knowledge in a way that's easy for small scale farmers to access, actually all farmers, because all farmers need to reduce how much they depend on synthetic chemicals. Um, so yes, so climate change is upon us and it's heavily impacting all farmers, but especially small scale farmers. And as I said, a farmer like Eric from Onewa Farms, he's always teaching me innovative ways that he is able to combat those type of issues and why he is able to access export markets, why he is a member of Proudly South Africa. So yeah, I've already started speaking about Onewa Farms. It's a 14 hectare farm in the West Rand of Gauteng. So Eric told me about how he became a member of Proudly South Africa. Uh, he is one of the first farmers, let's say black farmers, to export chilies to Netherlands from Gauteng. And what was special about when he did it was a lot of farmers who have exported they're likely to do it through an agency. So that means that they harvest their produce and they take it to an agency, and that agency exports it, and the packaging will have that agency's name, not that farm's name. So when he first did it, and in this picture, it's Eric. We had just planted baby marrows, and we were just scouting. He explained that it was such a difficult process initially, because he wasn't doing it through an agent. He had to deal with SARS, get export licenses. He had to deal with the Department of Agriculture, with PECB, which is an organization that oversees food safety. And at the time, the Department of Agriculture also was kind of not ready. They had also never experienced this, so it was a growing moment for the public sector in the region and for this local farmer. And
Oh,
he was assisted by Proudly SA. He became a member,
mm,
and he did explain
yes,
all the
correct.
benefits that Proudly SA does give, that Alicia explained earlier. So in that first event, Eric exported 1.5 tons of bird's eye chilies. And yeah, so Eric considers himself a
A
commercial
ton, that's
farmer.
1,000 liters. It will go for about 180,000.
Pardon?
Sorry, Louisa, your mic is unmuted.
Yes, so we spoke a little bit about how do you define yourself. In South Africa, different circles will define a smallholder farmer versus commercial farmer differently. Some look at revenue, some look at how much land you have. Eric explained to me that for the department to consider him commercial, they looked at the volumes or the tonnage that he trades. And it's also based on quality and specialization. Yes, so that is my opinion about a smallholder farming in South Africa. Um, as I said, BREAD is an R&D organization bridging the gap between agricultural research and products development. I work with farmers and agribusinesses across the continent. And yeah, Onewa Farms, which is a member of Proudly South Africa, is not only a partner of mine, but also one of my teachers. I learned so much from that farm. And yeah, I'm proudly South African, and thank you for having me.
Alessa, thank you so much for that presentation, and I think especially for the how can I say, the raw facts behind it. I think it's so important in order to I speak to companies that want to finance our, member companies that want to develop SMEs. Just yesterday I had a conversation with someone who says, I want to fund your SMEs. And then, we hand them over and then something happens, or nothing happens. And so I think it's so important for us to understand truly the issues that impact each sector in order for us to, we can't rectify something we don't know.
Mm.
So the more honest we are with what is happening in each sector, what are the drawbacks, what are the setbacks, and what SMEs are battling with, that's the only way we can get you funded and we can get you, growing. Someone said to me the other day, we want SMEs to graduate from being small to medium-sized enterprises into large businesses. But with so much red tape and so much of setbacks in each sector, it's really a challenge. So thank you for that. I think that was one of the presentations that looked at everything. You covered everything in the sector, and I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for an awesome presentation. We do move on to Ubuntu extra virgin olive oil, also an amazing, amazing product. I've seen it in store. I've seen the a collaboration also with Ubuntu extra virgin olive oil and the salt company. So yes, I hand over to Loyiso, who will talk to us about getting into the local market. Loyiso?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible.
Can you see me?
I can see you now.
Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Good morning to the panelists and the esteemed entrepreneurs that are listening in. So as means of introduction, well, I just thought that I should say that we proudly welcome all of the so-called investors that are quite interested in entrepreneurs. And the next time you do get that call, I think you can pass it my way or the Archer, my brother from the Archer. So we welcome that those developments. So I think just as means of introduction, my name is Lois Obanga. I own the first black-owned brand of extra virgin olive oil in South Africa called Ubuntu Extra Virgin Olive Oil. We launched our brand in 2019, December. Great time, obviously, to start a brand or a business because 2 months later it was COVID. So we sort of had to uh, work smart and not deliberate too much on working hard because we really had to work with whatever we got. And the unfortunate part is that I think a lot of SMMEs didn't make that time there. So yeah, we started in my garage in 2019 December, and just a brief background I think that would be helpful. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs would understand is, I mean, 2 or 3 years before that, we had been looking to get funded for an olive producing farm in the Western Cape, and through many efforts and a collapsed then land bank, we failed to get a farm. But the vision and the desire of owning an olive oil brand to us was quite critical. So I think one of the things that all of us in the entrepreneurial space face, I think, drawn a lesson there is is persistence, grit, and never giving up. And I think, for us, we wanted to develop an authentic olive oil brand which reflected the quality that we produce in South Africa. But I think also from an inspiration point of view, we wanted understanding even then, the challenges associated with youth unemployment. We thought that it was quite critical that we become part of the pioneers, and that's why I put my hat off to a lot of the panelists here and the entrepreneurs that are listening to us. That persistence and serving as an inspiration to our generation, I think, is one of the key things that we must always pioneer. After we launched, we sort of struggled during the COVID phase, but I think innovation in entrepreneurship and looking at what your competition does is quite critical in everything that you do. And just staying a step ahead is I think one of our uh, successes in staying in front of the game and taking the risk. So in 2020, I resigned from my call center job, took out a loan that unfortunately I'm still paying for. I'm hoping that your investors could assist with that. But took out a loan, resigned from my call center job, took out a loan, and I drove 9,000 kilometers across the country marketing the brand. So that's literally down from Cape Town, where we're based, down the Garden Route, Port Elizabeth, Tata, Port St. John's, KZN, Limpopo, and up to Joburg. And I think that did quite a lot of mileage in terms of marketing for us because we ended up then started trending because a lot of people wanted to know where Ubuntu was, the radio stations were there, and I think the highlight of our trip was us having a live 2 or 3 live interviews with ENCA, which was quite robust. And I mean, we've always kept those contacts with a number of the what you call of the radio stations, your Radio 2000, your Metro FMs, Hlobo Wenenes, your YFMs, all of those were quite plugged in, following the journey. So I think as we go into the subject, I think these are some of the things that I do want to emphasize is that getting your brand out there is more important sometimes than being finicky about what you have and what you don't have. And I think this is a failure of a lot of entrepreneurs is that we want to get to a perfect state, a perfect time where we can launch. And there's never a perfect time. There's never a perfect time, but the greatest of times is when you are getting yourself out there and taking those risks and getting uncomfortable. So I think that also fed to great marketing and great audience in the sense that it was easy then for us to approach the likes of Spar and Woolworths and Checkers because we were already out there and people want to be associated with black entrepreneurs in the main, but also people love the underdog story of someone who started with started Archer in their garage with their wives, and part of the beautiful thing that separates brands, because in the main we are not introducing brands or products that we are not reinventing the wheel here. We are introducing something that's already there. But what I think the greatest lesson that I've taken is that people not only buy products, but people buy into personality. People buy into the story mainly. Is that tell us your story? And I think, Palesa spoke very well about the great work that she's doing. These are stories that people want to know. And a lot of people now, I've realized in the Western Cape, especially in your Stellenbosch areas, even Khayelitsha, that people are fascinated about people's journeys of tenacity and persistence. So I think the main thing that I want to drive is that, we must get out of our comfort zones and sitting in front of laptops as entrepreneurs and just get out there and start knocking on doors. So we are currently now in at Woolworths. We're one of the selling brands there at Woolworths countrywide. We're one of the top selling brands at Woolworths at the moment, and we'll soon be launching our product in end June, God willingly. So I just wanted to just have a few pointers on some of the lessons that we learned in our journey and how those who endeavor to be at retail should take note of. And the first thing is product development and market fit. It's always very critical for anyone to know their product. Um, Product knowledge, I think, for me, and giving confidence to your constituency or to your clientele base is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. People love knowing that you know what you are talking about. People love the idea of learning from experiences and learning from new knowledge, basically. Um, a friend of mine was sharing that they are in Stellenbosch, and they were talking about how even the younger generation, I mean, you AMA 2000s, as we would call them, and she was saying that there's a gentleman in Stellenbosch, a black guy, in the township in Kayamandi, who has a tea company, and people are paying literally 500 Rand per session, 30 minutes, for him to tell his story and to talk about the different types of teas. But the point that I'm trying to emphasize is that these are children born in the 2000 era their main mission, and I think the main endeavor is that people are no longer satisfied by the shallow optics of being perceived as rich. I think the greatest value now, um, equal to money, is experience, and people want to learn these experiences. So that story sort of told me that people love to sit down and to hear. I mean, in the case of the archers, imagine having such an exhibition where you are telling people about the different archers and what it does and the influence and how this different varieties of archer help pronounce the culinary experience. So, product knowledge, I think, for me is quite key, and knowing your product. And part of knowing your product is benchmarking it against your competition, learning from your competition. And I think that's one of the major things that we've done right is that we've looked at who is the biggest in the industry and what they are doing right. And from that, as an SMME that's working from home, that outsources their products, learning from a conglomerate company that is leading in the industry is quite phenomenal. I mean, one of our developments lately is one of our largest competitors and quite a friend of ours also. And I think that's another thing, right? Is that your competition does not need to be your enemy. It's good to learn from them, but maybe one day you will need them also, even if it's not financial, but it from a wisdom and an expertise point of view. One of our competitions that we, in the initial stages, looked up to, developed a cab serve uh, infused balsamic vinegar. And we thought that was quite highly innovative. But I'm proud to announce that one of the greatest innovations that we've done, being inspired by that company, is that we are going to soon be launching, should we get the funding that we are looking for, we'll soon be launching South Africa's first biltong infused olive oil. And we are going to call that the braai olie, the Afrikaners like to call it. And one of my friends who tasted the olive oil said, this is a braai olie. So it is a biltong infused olive oil, which is the first of its kind because it's only in South Africa where we produce biltong. So we are definitely going to punt the fact that this is the first of its kind in the world. And you can just, from even a marketing point of view, think of all the expats in the diaspora and the South Africans across the country who can now have part of a South African sort of culture in biltong as an infused olive oil. And the beautiful thing about it is that this can be consumed by vegans also, and it's a great product. So innovation and looking and benchmarking from your competition is quite vital. And this also goes to price. It also goes to quality, and packaging. So looking at for example, our packaging, this is our bottle of Ubuntu extra virgin olive oil. And one of the things that we wanted to capture is that we wanted to capture a nice African vibe, a nice authentic South African touch to it. You see the Table Mountain here, proudly made in the Cape, because we had seen that our competition was predominantly very boring. These are people who had brands of an old grandmother and an olive branch and a dog. And we thought that that was so petty and stupid and just old school. But that was a reflection of the industry because I'm the youngest in the industry and most are in the main Afrikaans people who would be my grandfather's age. So these are some of the important things when you look at retail and you want to get into retail, is that how does my product jump out of in people's faces? How is the color of the brand that I'm going to push as a packaging material going to jump out at you? And surely something like this does make and come out quite fully and boldly. And lastly, on my first point is and it goes back to my initial introduction, is that uh, tell a compelling brand story. People love brand stories. There are about 20 olive oil brands in the country. Eight of them are at retail and are doing, they occupy a huge chunk of the retail space. But how do I differentiate myself with them? So people want to learn these stories. People want to know about your sweat capital and how you've devoted yourself into this thing, even if it means that you or your wife stopped working to pursue these things. These are stories that people want to hear. So telling a compelling brand story is at the epicenter. That's your unique selling point. So finding a unique selling point, for me, I think is the reason why retail will say, listen, we've got an accredited and your competition here has been here supplying. What makes you different? And I think when we start asking what makes you different, what makes you unique, then I think that also separates you from the head. And the nice thing about having a good story to tell about your brand or your service is that people then don't compare you on a price basis. People compare you on buying an olive oil, uh, which is proudly black owned, youth owned, and people want to get behind that. And they are more than willing to pay a 20 or 30 rand difference. I've got a lot of my clients who say, hey, Louis, so just because we've met you, it's so difficult for us now to throw away your bottles. And I've got clients who bought my olive oil in 2020 when we launched, but they still have the olive oil in their kitchens. So I think a compelling story will always separate you from the head. And I'll just jump through for the sake of time, I'll just jump through some of the pointers and then we'll take questions if there are any. So one of the key things is product compliance and safety. Do your labels meet the standards of agriculture, or do they meet the standards stipulated by the Department of Health? Um, in most cases, in all cases, in fact, the prerequisite has always been a nutritional value test or lab tests. So when we started at retail, our first retail was Spa. And we were quick to learn there at Spa that, that's a nice thing about Spa is that I get a lot of entrepreneurs who say, Loiso, so I've got this brand of mine, Archer brand of mine, please help me get into Woolworths. And at that time, you don't even have your logo or your not a logo. You don't even have your barcode right. And these are some of the things that we learned before we got into Woolworths, because the guys at Spar were were quite clear to us to say, listen, we see your barcode, but that barcode doesn't exist. And they were true. It was true what they were saying, because the barcode was just for us and aesthetics. But when you get into retail, you need to be associated with GS1, which does barcoding. So barcoding then is an international standard that once you have been allocated that barcoding, it's a globally recognized barcode which differentiates your product to other products in the world. So that's the beauty of it. So lab tests, another thing is nutritional value test. Um, Retail consistently will ask for a nutritional value test, because some have got pathogens, some have got nuts and things that people are allergic to. And if those disclaimers are not out there for clients to see, you could get sued should someone consume your product and you did not mention that it's got a certain component that might have the client that the client might be allergic to. So the nutritional value tests on those lab tests must be standard features of your product. And you get your companies like Cedar who do fund for those type of things. Certification, is your product bottled and labeled and filled in a facility that is FS 22000 approved, ISO this, that, and CBS this, that. So these are some of the compliances that you need to be ahead of. Packaging and labeling, shelf lifespan. Uh, And the use of coding and barcoding is quite important. And these are things that are quite accessible. You just Google them. Pricing. So in your pricing, when you deal with retail stores, you must also have a leeway for a 30 or 50% retail margin that they will include. When you do your pricing also for retail, also include issues of VAT, logistics, promotion and pricing, because in most cases, for example, we had to be VAT registered in as much as we hadn't made 1 million yet, but the prerequisites from Woolworths were saying that we need to be VAT registered. So then you apply to SARS for voluntary VAT registration, which is quite possible. Um, and yeah, the small things like vendor registration, preparing your company documents, knowing that all of your company documents, your BE certificates, your disclosures, your company registrations, your certificates, your samples are all in order is something that is quite important. And lastly, financial readiness. And I think this is something that I learned the hard way is when your product gets out there and it starts doing well, most of our entrepreneurs, especially sorry, you'll excuse me, this is a sun in Cape Town doing things. Let me do this. Um, you'll note that in most cases, once we get these opportunities, we have a tendency of maybe not having the capacity to provide. And capacity in the main has to do um, with financial clarity and having working capital. And I think this is where a lot of us entrepreneurs struggle at. And I think the financial sector, including the banks, are not quite ready for contributing towards SMMEs as they say they are. I mean, nonsense things like an entrepreneur, for example, for you to get funding through business partners or whatever, an entrepreneur must make about 100,000 per month. These are things and challenges that we have because we have got inconsistent clients and supply. And I just don't think that, in as much as we have got a crisis in the country of high unemployment, and the answer to that is entrepreneurship, but the support thereof is quite lacking. So I think the important thing is always to work hard getting that capital. And it's a difficult thing. It's not that easy. Because how do you lobby people to believing that you need money for this vision of yours? I mean, when we first got into Woolworths, one of our biggest challenges that we needed to get over is that Woolworths would issue a PO and we'd need to deliver within 7 odd days. But for us to get that funding, and in most cases, our suppliers want money upfront, and now you need to pay the farmer 1,000 liters of olive oil that costs 180,000. You still need to go and print your labels. That takes 7 days. You need to bottle, and so that takes about 20 odd days or 15 odd days for the product to be ready. So some of these things are things that need to be negotiated, and I think it's quite important that um, you know, we need to stop, this fucking, I mean, sorry, we need to stop this talking and having all of these things. Entrepreneurs need money. These ESD programs are great, and these developmental teaching entrepreneurs about the 4 Ps of marketing, those things are irrelevant. What entrepreneurs need is money. So for us to grow and to create employment, we need to get farms. We need to own the value product. We need to get warehousing, and these things need money. So that's my parting shot, is that be ready from a financial point of view and do your best to get funding. I personally have struggled from a funding point of view, simply because the people you meet want 40% of your business, and you feel like punching them in the face when you're asking for 500,000 and they think that they should own your company. So these are some of the challenges that we face, and I will dare say that entrepreneurs must dig deep, work hard, network. Your network is your net worth, and do your best to keep your company 100% owned by yourself. And don't be tricked into this nonsense of, you'd rather have 30% of your company and still have a farm and have all of these things, rather than for you to have 100% of your company and nothing. Please respect us. Uh, Keep your company, dig deep, and do your research. I think that's it from me, Alicia. I don't know, I might have gone above my time, but I'm happy to take questions, and thank you for the platform.
Lisa, thank you for that. Yes, all SMEs are frustrated with the funding system, but nonetheless, every one of you on the call who's looking for funding, please reach out. We have a number of companies that have reached out to Proudly South African saying they would like to fund some of our member companies. So please do email me so that I can take that forward for you. Our last speaker for the day is Ingrid Woodrow, who will be speaking to us about supporting local food policy and regulations. I think that is a very important one, especially because it is important as SMEs to understand the regulations in every single sector, and to see how that impacts yourself, your business, and to also abide accordingly. So, Ingrid, the floor is yours.
Hi. Will you just share my presentation, please? Yeah, I mean, we actually are not regulators as such. We basically assist all people in the food value chain, almost, not all of them, but I mean, we are mainly there for the people who do processing and services to the processing or supplies to the processing. But that means we have to collaborate with everyone. Can you do the next slide, please? So how do we actually, next slide? How do we actually support the local food policy and regulation system? So we connect everyone with each other, and also with the right people that they need to find out about. You know, all the consultants that can assist them with finding the right processing equipment, or the testing companies or things like that. Connect, we inform everyone about regulations that are coming up, and then we also organize training for people to sort of understand what are these regulations, what do they need to do about it, because often when they are first promulgated, they're not promulgated, they're actually in draft, so people can actually still submit their concerns about certain things, and then we actually use the experts in the industry to also give people these sort of options to get together, to look at all these things and to really investigate everything, so that in the end it makes sense for everybody. Because it's not only for the consumer. In the end, companies have to change their labels, and that costs a lot of money. And one has to make sure that everyone knows what it will entail. Then we just also promote various smaller companies. We promote new products. We've got all sorts of different things. But let's get on with the next slide. I'm unfortunately, yeah, we went a bit over the time because I was meant to have been done already, and I have got another meeting to go to. So I just want to give you a quick overview of SAFOST. We've been around for a long time, that you can see. We expect everyone who becomes a member to subscribe to our code of conduct, which is, you know, to act professionally and ethically. But I mean, there's a whole code of conduct that you have to read through and agreed to. We largely volunteer run. We've got branches in different provinces, and then we have different membership categories. You can go to the next slide. I mean, I'll give you only a very quick overview of what we're all about. Just so that you understand what our connection principle is, we actually went onto a membership portal, which is a bit like LinkedIn, where all the members can actually see who is in the food industry and who is there, and they can connect with each other there. They can also share information and things like that. All the events and everything is also run off there. You can go to the next slide. I'll just show you quickly what it looks like on the next slide. That's what it looks like. So you can see that looks a little bit like LinkedIn. I mean, I'm actually still a professional member of the association, but currently I run the association. So I'm more the manager, so I don't really get involved that much with connecting, but I connect everyone on it. Okay, so you can do the next slide. Yeah, we can run through these slides fairly quickly because basically I just give you an overview of what's happening there, you know, just to show people what is going on there. We do all sorts of different webinars, so you can see all these things are there, all the different events that we've organized. You can go to the next one as well. I mean, the one that you can see there with the maize, we did a breakfast event where we did the whole value chain of maize. That sort of told people about, yeah, you have to go back one more, but it doesn't matter. I mean, all of these things, some of them are also available on our website, but most of our slides for any of the presentations or webinars or what we did, we actually have it in the end mainly for our members to look at. So they have to be on the membership app. You can go to the next slides. So you could see that where you could actually connect with the company members, and the next one is the individual members. And obviously, because of the POPI Act, we cannot have all the information about everyone there, but you can see where they work and who they are and what they do. But that's also up to everyone how much they want to show. So because we believe in the future, I mean, our association is called Food Science and Technology Association. We also do a lot of work for students who study food science and technology. There are a lot of people who study microbiology, biotechnology, also consumer science, and there are even chemical engineers that we collaborate with and do things with. So these are all sort of things that we do for them. So you can go to the next slide. You went too fast. Yeah. So our bursaries are actually sort of administered via the SAFOST Foundation, which is run as a separate entity, run as a trust, so that it's a little bit separate because SAFOST isn't a non-profit organization, but the foundation is actually then run as a trust, which is obviously also non-profit. But it's just easier to do it separately. But we do most of the work on our side, and it is any money that we may have made in surplus that went into this foundation bank account so that we can pay the bursaries from there. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So SAFOST is the voluntary association for SACNASP, for food scientists and technologists. When the whole listeria case came about in 2018, the government decided that food scientists who are particularly in critical positions in the food industry ought to actually register as professional scientists and then ensure that they keep up to date with everything by earning their CPD points. At the moment, it is not released as such, but there are many people who are actually registered, but there are many more that should be registered. And that's something to keep in mind. So people can actually earn their CPD points via membership with SAFOST and participating in all the events that we organize. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are the things that we organize. It just gives you an overview of some of the things you saw probably on the membership portal, some of the events that we have organized. But yeah, our biggest event is the Congress, but you can go to the next slide now. I think on the next slide, you can just see some of the workshops that we did over the past 3 years. So I joined actually in March of 2022. So here you can just see some of the things that we do. But I mean, there are a lot more that we do on the webinar side or even lecture evening side, and then obviously on our Congress side. Okay, so you can go to the next slide. Oh, you went one too quickly, but this one actually just shows you that our big Congress runs over 3 days, will be at the CSIR ICC at the end of August. We get international speakers. We have local people who actually submit abstracts. And then we obviously also have some of the postgraduate students who then submit abstracts and often then get a poster presentation. Some of them also get oral presentations. But yes, most of them actually do get poster presentations, and it gives them an opportunity also to have industry look at what they've done and whether that's of interest. So that's also how we connect everyone with each other. So you can go to the next slide. It just gives you an overview of what the Congress is all about. I mean, we do it every 2 years because it takes quite a long time to actually organize something like this. But we alternate with the Nutrition Society and the Association for Dietetics. They do it in the alternate years, and they have a slot at our Congress, and we have a slot at their Congress. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Just so you, the next slide basically just shows you the themes that we sort of requested people to keep in mind when they submitted abstracts. So you can see there, that's all about what is very important in the food industry. And I mean, you know, we've heard a few of the other speakers mention that a number of these things. And we have lots of companies that are involved in ensuring that that is minimized. I mean, it's not always possible to get to a zero waste option, but we have to look at all these different things. Anyway, you can go to the next slide now. Okay, so we also have a scientific magazine which is published 3 times a year. I can't do it in hard copy anymore, but it's available for everyone who goes in there. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so just so you know, we collaborate with lots of people in South Africa, and then also international, just outside of South Africa, who obviously don't have anything similar. So they do come to our congresses as well. And then on our website, we've got various other options that you can see here. One thing that I want to lift out is the consumer website, which is foodfacts.org.za, because I think it's very important that we also ensure that our consumers can have access to actual and factual information, as unfortunately there's a lot of misinformation around about, sure that consumers know a little bit about it, but it's mainly through social media that we do that. But yeah, I mean, because we're a nonprofit, we don't have a heck of a lot of money, and we haven't actually got the ability to ensure that everyone knows about this website. But in time, we hope to actually get more people to support us. Okay, the next slide. I'm just showing you a little bit about what's on there, so you can have a look at it. I mean, you can access it via our website, but you can also just look under foodfacts.org.za, and anyone can actually access this website. It is a separate website, and it is actually financed by SAFOST. But we have people like the CGCSA, ATSA, NSSA, SABS, SANKU, and a whole lot of other people who are involved in a committee that actually ensures that this website is kept up to date. and the Department of Health, actually. Okay, the next slide. I think there you can also see, some of the article topics there. You can go to the next slide as well. We've also added a definitions option there so people understand what the different definitions are, because I think consumers do not really understand a lot of things. So that's also available on the FACTS website. You can go to the next slide. Okay, then we have the company memberships. So you can see we've got some institutional company members that pay a certain amount. They are listed on our website. You can see them there. You can go to the next slide. Then we also have custodian members who actually supported us with financial. Well, this is the institutional. It's just a snippet from our website. You can go to the next one. So the bigger companies obviously give us a bit more money, and we also use some of their expertise, but not only from the custodian members, also from the other members. But yeah, they actually assist us with a lot, because to even do the FST magazine, we need extra money to do that. And then we use people for various activities and events and so on. You can go to the next slide. That just gives you a quick view of who the companies are who are currently our custodian members. And that's basically all I would like to say to you today. Thank you. I think that's that's the end of my presentation. I would like to ask, if possible, if anyone has got any questions, that they first ask me, because unfortunately I will have to run shortly, because unfortunately I've got quite a lot of things on the go. If anyone has any questions, you can quickly ask me now.
Ingrid, thank you so much for that presentation. I see that there's no questions in the chat box and nothing on social media either. So I think you are welcome to go. I know we've gone over time. I do apologize for that, but thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you also, and I wish you all the best. I know that it's very important. I mean, I think we are all patriotically South African here, and we will not leave this country. We have a role to play. We have something to do, and I think it's great that there are so many people who are so committed. So thank you also for the opportunity.
What a lovely conversation. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Colleagues, thank you very much, to our presenters. We really learned so much for you. Your presentations were absolutely honest and really aligned to the sector. Thank you very much for that. Thank you to all our guests that have joined us this morning. Apologies for running a little over, but thank you for joining us. To conclude, I think every one of our speakers held a constant thread that South Africa is alive with so much of possibilities, especially within the agricultural food sector. We have everything within our country to thrive. If we can get through some of the red tape that block SMEs from true authentic growth, I think we can really scale this sector much more than already it is, So I leave you with that. And as I said, thank you to everyone that has joined us and to our speakers as well. We have come to the end of our webinar. Bye-bye.